Và xin chào mọi người, đây là Đức Nguyễn từ công ty việtvốn.com. Mấy hôm nay có rất nhiều các bạn đang thắc mắc về sự khác biệt giữa chương trình PPP và EIDL, nên Đức muốn chia sẻ video ngắn này với các bạn để mình có thể cùng tìm hiểu chung. PPP là Paycheck Protection Program, và đây là chương trình mà các bạn cần apply thẳng với nhà băng mà các bạn đang có business checking với họ, để mình có thể xin được 2,5 tháng tiền lương cho nhân viên, và số nợ này có thể được xóa hoàn toàn nếu mình sử dụng trên 75% cho chi phí nhân công, có nghĩa là payroll. Các bạn có thể trả payroll cho nhân viên bằng 1099 hoặc W2 đều được. Còn chương trình EIDL mà mình muốn nói đến hôm nay thì các bạn có thể làm trực tiếp với SBA mà không thông qua nhà băng. EIDL bao gồm hai loại khác nhau: EIDL Advance và EIDL Loans. Ok. EIDL Advance tức là chương trình 10.000 cho Emergency Funding mà Đức có giới thiệu hôm trước, và cũng đã có rất nhiều bạn apply thẳng qua SBA Online. Còn chương trình thứ hai của EIDL tức là EIDL Loan. Chương trình này thì các bạn có thể mượn được nhiều hơn. Họ không chỉ tính payroll mà SBA tính tất cả chi phí cố định hàng tháng của bạn. Ví dụ chi phí của business mình là 20.000 một tháng đi. Trong đó 10.000 là tiền payroll và 10.000 là phần còn lại là cho những chi phí khác như là tiền rent, tiền điện, tiền gas, advertising, insurance và những thứ khác nữa. Thì theo chương trình PPP, bạn chỉ có thể mượn được 2,5 tháng của 10.000, tức là 25.000. Còn theo chương trình EIDL của SBA thì các bạn có thể mượn được 6 lần của 20.000, tức là 120.000. Thì cũng như các bạn thấy, sự khác biệt giữa 25.000 và 120.000 thì rất là nhiều. Đó. Đức xin các bạn theo dõi nguồn tin từ văn phòng SBA để mình có thể nắm vững hơn về chương trình này nha. Nếu các bạn thấy chương trình EIDL này phù hợp với mình thì xin đón xem video kỳ tới của Đức. Đức sẽ ra trong vài ngày nữa và mình sẽ chỉ dẫn các bạn cách apply trực tiếp với SBA. Xin thông cảm là video kỳ này không được tốt lắm và hay bị gián đoạn, nhưng đây là nguồn tin chính xác nhất mà Đức xem được qua chương trình EIDL này, về cách hướng dẫn và cách và cách và đây là được hướng dẫn trực tiếp bởi nhân viên của văn phòng SDA. Và xin các bạn theo dõi.
Hi everyone, today we are talking about the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan as it relates to the coronavirus. We're going to be talking to Sushil Kumar, the Public Information Officer, and he's going to talk about who qualifies, how much you can get, the documents you need to apply, a timeline for funding, and then hopefully at the end we're going to have time for questions. So stick around, cut through the rumors, and get the facts right here. Hi everyone, I am Rhoda. Hi everyone, today we are talking about the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan as it relates to the coronavirus. We're going to be talking to Sushil Kumar, the Public Information Officer, and he's going to talk about who qualifies, how much you can get, the documents you need to apply, a timeline for funding, and then hopefully at the end we're going to have time for questions. So stick around, cut through the rumors, and get the facts right here. Hi everyone, I am Rhoda Flum, and today we are talking about the SBA disaster loan as it relates to coronavirus. We are lucky to have Sushil Kumar with us, who is a public information officer with the SBA. He's been with the SBA since 2012, and his duties include presenting to U.S. senators, House of Representatives, and now he's going to be presenting to us. He's worked with FEMA, Office of Emergency Management, and Housing and Urban Development. He's got over 27 years of banking experience, so he is definitely well qualified to answer our questions and give us the rundown on the disaster. Sushil, how are you? I'm putting my earbuds in now. So tell us, how busy are you? All right, well, let's hope that this presentation helps answer some questions and helps calm people down so that we can move forward with small business. I'm going to let you take it away. Just tell me when to click the next slide.
And putting in their bank account and taking a UCC-15.
Do you know what this is? Because believe it or not, this weird little blue tool actually sells thousands of units right here on Amazon.
Island.
Okay.
So in this case, it talks about, again, these are generalities. We're not going to worry about this slide because this would be a normal disaster scenario, and that's an oxymoron, normal precedented. We won't pay much attention to this slide at all.
So if they do a $50,000 loan and have a house, they are not going to put a lien on the house? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. Oops. There we go.
Now go back one if you don't mind.
No.
Those forms, those 5 forms are what we consider your basic eligibility up front. Fill out an application, sign the 4506, which is the IRS transcript corroborating the income figure, the expense figure, the net number against the cash flow that we're going to ascertain. Copies of the tax returns, if you have it. If you don't have it, just say you don't. A personal financial statement, which fills out your assets and liabilities and fills out other vital pieces of information. And last but not least, schedule of liabilities, which basically breaks down your accounts payable, who you owe, when you owe, how much you owe, and if there's a security interest attached to it. Next, please. This is pretty self-explanatory. If you're a 100% owner, the top line doesn't apply. If you have multiple owners, we need information on the multiple owners. Second piece, if the most recent federal income tax return has not been filed, we will take a year-end profit and loss statement. As a matter of fact, we would need then ask for a balance sheet as of 2/28/2019, an income statement for the corresponding time frame, match that up against 2/28/2/29. We had 29 days, but we got to be consistent with our date. So 2/28/2020 and 2/28/2020 for the income statement. The Form 1368, that breaks down sales by month, by year. So the earlier example that I took was 1 year in business. We would list 2019, break down sales by month, which establishes basically your threshold, benchmark seasonality, and then gives us a corresponding time frame to look at for the purposes of measuring economic loss. Okay. Next, please.
Quick question on that form. I was reading it and it said that you need 3 years of sales history on it. Is that right? Or you can go 2 years to correspond with the tax returns?
Well, basically, if you've been in business 3 years, we'll take 3 years. If you've only been in business 1 year, that's only 1 year. So there's a slot for 3 years, but if you've not been in business 3 years, that would be not applicable, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And then is there a time in business, 1 year time in business, or someone who's been in business 6 months is okay?
As long as you were in business prior to the incident period, which is the 1st of February, they qualify, in which case we would then use their pro forma income statement and pro forma balance sheet into consideration while underwriting the.
Okay. Did I do 2? There we go.
Is an approved business activity, state of California, but IRS level, it's not. So those cannabis activity by number of employees, and I'll be glad to share that slide with you at a later date.
Okay.
The concept of independently owned and operated business. I mean, that's the Go ahead.
No, sorry, finish this and then I'll ask a question and follow up.
No issue. Independently owned and operated business. This brings into question who is eligible and who can apply. Okay. If you have a Uber operator that actually owns a company, he is a sole prop, he's got an EIN number, he's got capital at risk, he lists the company car as a fixed asset, he takes the depreciation, he has got an income statement, so on and so forth, and he actually loses out on his capital. He has to reduce the capital to reflect the loss because that's what a balance sheet is about. He or she then becomes part of the eligibility. They can apply versus an Uber driver that basically is driving a leased vehicle, belongs to Uber, gets a check at the end of the week for the number of people that he drove, and he has no capital and goodwill at risk. That he or she needs to apply to the unemployment compensation piece. And your question, Rhoda, was?
So for business activity, I know typically for SBAs, real estate investment is prohibited, but if you're a real estate investor and you have 4 rental properties, again, in an LLC, you can help your tenants by relieving some of their rent and apply for a loan here.
That's exactly right. The word speculation comes to mind, right? So if they're in speculative activity and there's a lot that's undeveloped, there's a home that's undeveloped, there's a strip mall that's undeveloped, that's a different ballgame. But if he or she owns strip malls, commercial buildings, homes which are out for rent for Schedule E, they all need to apply because economic disruption has taken place materially.
Okay. Nonprofits are okay. You went through that.
2.75% fixed interest rate for repayment of up to 30 years.
Great. Location.
This talks into a normal scenario. You must have a physical presence. The entire state is declared, so that's moot. A PO box, now that's significant. PO box is a no-no. We need a physical address where you operate your business. So when you fill out the application, do not list a PO box because the system will kick it out automatically. So we need an address. 123 Main Street is where I get my business. But I'll get my mail at PO Box 225, Sacramento, California. That's fine. But we need to know physically where your business is located so that we understand that you have a physical location.
Okay. And we have people all across the United States. So when you say state, we're talking more broadly. Are there any counties in the U.S. that you know that have not been declared?
I do not. My territory is west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
So anything from North Dakota, South Dakota, all the way down to Louisiana, Iowa, California, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, CNMI, and every state in between have been declared.
Okay. Oh, it's going a little fast for me. There we go.
No issue. Back to the primary activity, the entire supply chain needs to apply. If you're a distributor, if you're a manufacturer, if you're an automotive company, you have a supply chain that you're trying to maintain. One man's payables, another man's revenue. So the working capital requirement is huge. Next, please.
Yeah, try. Oh, there we go.
No issue. You folks in the line of work that you're in, Rhoda, you're aware of size requirements. If you're over a certain revenue size and the NAICS code says that you're larger than, then that disqualifies the application process. A food motor company would not apply with the SBA. A General Motors would not apply with us, but a restaurant and Newport Beach that fits the NAICS code size standards potentially can apply. And I don't know what that NAICS code might be because so many restaurants have so many different categorizations. Same thing with number of employees. There are certain categorizations of employee size and size standards. So take a look at your NAICS code. If you don't have it already, I'll shoot it out to you, Rhoda, after our presentation.
Perfect. I think this morning I heard something like 500 is a good rule of thumb for employees. Would you agree with that?
I would not, only because that's, again, a generalization. I would very specifically, in this environment of uncertainty and certitude, would be important. So if you could share the size standards, it's on our website too. If you were to go to sba.gov, in the search bar, put in size standards, there's a PDF that you will click on. It'll pop up with your NAICS code. What we don't want to do is there may be a number that's bigger than 500 and the NAICS code allows for it to apply. So we need to be cognizant that not all industry standards across the board are different. So we need to take that into consideration. No broad sweeping statements in this particular case.
Got it.
Back to the substantial business risk piece, the independently owned and operated concept comes into play. And that's what I mentioned. A crew member on a fishing boat would not be eligible. The crew captain has got capital risk. He owns the boat. He's got to pay his people. He's got to sell that product. So the captain of the boat versus the crew member, that's the mindset. And of course, there are some disclaimers at the bottom. Merely filing a Schedule C with the federal tax return does not qualify the individual as an independently owned and operated business.
Okay.
Certain ineligible economic injury disaster loan applicants, religious organizations like churches, charitable organizations on a case-by-case basis, if there might be a economic injury piece there. Going back to the first example, churches that have a daycare, a school, and some other services that they're offering might potentially be eligible. But a church by itself has no economic activity. Tithing is a charitable contribution, not an economic activity. Casinos, racetracks, illegal activities. I had a question about a hedge fund could apply with us, and the answer is no. Next, please.
The other question that comes up is like a gas station that has slot machines in their gas station. They could apply for the revenue on the C-store, but not the slot machine or lottery
tickets. A lot
tickets.
of times it'll be on the revenue stream. And as long as it's not 51% or higher, they're good to go. Speculative activities, that goes back to real estate, pawn shops, real estate developers. And if you notice, there's that specific example that we talked about, engaged in subdividing real property into lots for the purposes of developing. So undeveloped land wouldn't qualify. There's no economic injury there. Loan packagers that derive 30% or more of their annual income. And last but not least, I'm sure you know the forms, SBA forms very well because you're an expert at this, Rhoda, and so is your firm. 912 issues. Folks that are on probation or on parole, we need special dispensation from the legal department in Washington for us to proceed forward.
Okay, great.
Next, please. Government-owned entities, lobbying concerns, prurient sexual nature, and of course, not located in the disaster area. That we covered that. Now, concerns determined by SBA to have credit available elsewhere. That's completely out the window. Again, this is a very general presentation under what we call a regular disaster environment. In this particular case, we're encouraging folks that have lines of credit with businesses, with their business lines of credit, to use it while they wait for funding. Start to finish, we're looking at 25 to 30 business days for funding after we receive a complete package.
Right, and I want to highlight that. That's key. It has to be a complete package. If you submit something and then your loan officer or counselor has to ask for something else, then it kind of resets the clock, no?
That's exactly right. And a lot of times, depending on the severity of the deficiency, that we might actually send it back. For the most part, what I don't want to do is discourage people, because there are certain exceptions we're making as we go along. What they are, how they are, there are too many of them for me to mention. But for the most part, if you could complete those 5 forms that we talked about initially, which is an application, a signed 4506, copy of the tax return, filled out the personal financial statement, and a schedule of liabilities, you're good to go.
Yeah, and I want to highlight what you said. As we go along, we're all in this together, and none of us has really experienced anything like this. So a lot of it is kind of going through as we go along.
And I have to say this, I mean, this particular interaction we're having is dated by the time tomorrow comes around, because there may be some other refinements that take place, and suddenly someone listening to this will say, well, so Shields said so, and Rhoda concurred. Well, yeah, it was correct at the time it was presented. So we want to make sure that our listening audience and the ones who are viewing this view it through the prism of, as of Wednesday, the 25th of March, 2020 at 12:22, this information was absolutely correct.
Right. Okay.
Great. Ineligible uses of EIDL loan proceeds. Economic injury disaster loan is what the EIDL acronym stands for. This is meant for working capital. So by definition, refinancing long-term debt is a no-no. So what long-term debt can be included in a current liability section? It is the portion where you have 12 months of current portion long-term debt due. That's the only component that needs to be included. Cannot pay down loans. cannot make a payment for the federal debt. And if there's delinquency on any type of IRS debt, we need proof that it's been cured. Any questions?
So if you have a lien or something, an IRS lien on your business, you can't apply, or you have to pay that first, and then you can be eligible for a disaster loan?
We allow 6 months worth of time frame for you to come back if you're turned down by the SBA. A note that says that the IRS debt has been paid is all right. A note that says there's an installment loan agreement in place, that's okay. But if you're delinquent and there is no curative measure applied to the delinquency, it cannot be. It's basically a reason for a turn down.
Okay.
Our number, 1-800-659-2955. Our website, sba.gov/disaster. Any questions, feel free to email us. Given the sheer volume of it all, it may take a little bit of time, folks. So bear with us while we work our way through this particular scenario.
Yeah, and so a couple of comments that I was on another call with someone, and you can confirm or deny this. They said, call customer service if you're having IT problems with filling out the application online. Otherwise, email and get a response that way. But the customer service backlog is like 6 hours, 8 hours that people are waiting on hold to try and get help. Is that what you're hearing right now, or have they kind of worked through that?
I'm not hearing that. I haven't heard a 6 hour wait or an 8 hour wait.
Okay.
If there's a question that you need answered, I would suggest a contact the local small business development center in town. They are our resource partners to assist. So are folks like yourselves that have made a market in SBA. We're looking for assistance. So if there is, this is a standard SBA program. So in terms of expertise, we would love for you folks to help out. I mean, you can always call the customer service number, but if there's a quick turnaround to reach out to Rhoda, why not? Or reach out to Small Business Development Center, your Women's Business Center, your VBOX, your SCORE chapters, because they're familiar with what these forms are. And these are standard SBA forms, which we're using in a disaster. So it actually helps out the cause if you're able to call a friendly face, someone that already knows your situation is able to help you answer the question.
Great. And I know with other disasters, you had to register with FEMA first and put the registration number on the online application. And then when I went to FEMA before the call, they said, we're not doing anything for coronavirus. Do you still need to register with FEMA first, or had they gotten rid of that form field on the SBA application?
There is no FEMA program for COVID-19. FEMA's role in this particular scenario is on the public assistance side, architecture, working with the city, so on and so forth for public health. And this is very specifically an SBA program. So the SBA program is the key driver here. Economic injury, there's no registration required. So when you see that at the top of the application, you would not pull anything there.
Okay.
But as you very correctly pointed out, when the president declares a federal disaster and appoints FEMA as the lead agency to assist for disaster recovery efforts, then you would register with FEMA, apply with the SBA. And as you know, FEMA's role in disasters is providing grants for short-term, safe, secure, sanitary condition. SBA does the heavy lifting when it comes to lending monies for homeowners, renters, most private nonprofits, and businesses of all sizes. This program that we just finished talking about very specifically is for nonprofits and businesses. There is no homeowner or renter involved here, and neither is there any presidential declaration involved here.
Okay. So if you're a renter, maybe your landlord is going to apply for assistance and give you a bit of breathing room on your rent, but you as the renter cannot apply.
That's correct. And we encourage all renters to talk to your landlord to apply for relief so they could get relief. Landlords, if you were to forbear and have an economic disruption of some sort with your tenant, feel free to apply to us for that assistance. It's fixed interest rates, longer amortization. There is no prepayment penalty. The first payment is due 12 months from now. And we're looking to assist with the development of a recovery plan in the form of a working capital loan as soon as possible for you folks.
How much money is available?
$2 million per business. So multiple
Broadly
locations,
for the
still consider one business.
recovery? Do you think they're going to run out?
That's correct. Oh, God, no.
Like $2
Oh, no.
trillion? What's the, not 2 million for
Yeah,
each small business, but the entire country?
Yeah, well, I think the numbers that you're mentioning in jest is a package for the entire economy that includes
Right.
many other industries, many other programs. Our program initially was appropriate 8.3 when it was signed initially a couple of weeks back. And, you know, we've already made a bunch of approvals so far, and money is on the streets as we speak. And so we have plenty of money. We're not going to be running out. It's not first come, first serve. It's really meant to assist with the needs of the many. Please apply. If you have multiple businesses, please apply, because that $2 million applies to a business. Locations wise, one tax return, one loan for $2 million.
It's not like the toilet paper, the eggs. We got the money. No need to panic. But you do want to get your application in so you can start getting it in the queue for processing to get the loan. But if the portal is taking a while to load your application, because I've experienced that, stay calm. It's okay. You're not going to get cut off.
And there's always the paper application route. If you can work with the SBDC that has paper forms, feel free to use it and mail it into your 14925 Kingsport Drive address in Fort Worth, Texas. And, you know, this may be the time to use a paper application because perhaps it's easier and more comfortable to do so versus connectivity issues. There's some folks in some parts of the country that actually have connectivity issues because of bandwidth. So perhaps this is the time to go back to filling out the application and moving forward.
Okay. And the processing time you said from application to funds dispersed in your account, you think is about 30 days?
That's a number that I'm sticking with today. That's a number that we're comfortable with. It's subject to change. And it's, as we mentioned, it's predicated on a complete package. Money comes direct from the Treasury, unlike other SBA programs, Rhoda, that you are used to working with, where banks make the funding guaranteed by the SBA. This comes directly from the United States Treasury.
We talked about this a little bit before the call. How are you hiring? How are you handling the influx of work?
We have hired quite a few people. I mean, I don't even know what the numbers are now. There is a PSA. Feel free to reach out to our HR department. I have a copy of the PSA that I can forward to you, Rhoda. I believe I do have one. 1-800, let me call, 916-735-1500. Ask for HR, and they'll give you instructions on what needs to happen.
But everybody's working from home. Training will be from home. No big call center.
That's correct. For the most part, we were told as of Monday that we're going to be teleworking, very flexible schedules. Everyone has got a computer, Zoom, Skype, GoToMeeting, and we're doing all of our work virtually.
So I have a quick question regarding that. Are all of those peripherals supplied once you are hired, or do you need to have that in place prior to?
Hiring question, don't have visibility. I believe the short answer is IT is providing it. But for us, we have our company issued laptops and personal computers we personally own, so we're using it as appropriate.
Okay, so I just want to point out, so if you are interested in working or applying with the HR department, don't let your potential lack of a computer or something dissuade you. It can be figured out.
Correct.
Right.
HR will tell you what they can hire you for, what your capacity is for, what your qualifications might be, and then make the call. If you want to help us during this unprecedented crisis, feel free to reach out to the HR department and they'll give you guidance accordingly.
Do we have any questions that are coming in? Have people been typing in the chat box?
We do. We had a little bit of a disaster earlier ourselves. The audio, as soon as we went live, failed. And so the first few slides did not have any audio to it.
Do we need to redo it real fast?
Just, the first few slides. I do apologize. It has been working for the majority of this. Unfortunately,
All right.
as soon as we went live on YouTube, it threw up an error.
Okay. Well, let's see
No,
here.
no issue.
No worries.
No issue.
We're all in this together,
got this.
winging it, like Tim
We got
says.
this.
The advantage with this is we have had a number of other people join after that, so they may not have heard the information.
Perfect.
Economic injury disaster loans are primarily meant to shore up a business's impaired working capital status. In other words, your ability to pay your bills on time is impaired as a result of revenue destruction. I'll use the word destruction because this is not a shortfall. COVID and the stand down orders and stay at home orders has pretty much obliterated the revenue side of the equation. So if you have no revenues, what do? It's basically a loan that helps you pay your bills on time. What the money is used for? It's meant to use to pay your obligations in the form of your payables, which is measured by what you list on your schedule of liabilities, and your employees that make all this happen. Together, whatever is on your current liabilities, that's exactly what this loan is meant to pay. What we're doing right now is for the eligible business, so that they don't have to figure out how many months they should ask for. We're fronting 6 months worth of working capital right into their bank account. Start to finish, from the application to funding is between 25 to 30 days. And the monies come from the Treasury, fixed interest rate 3.75% for businesses, 2.75% for nonprofits.
Is it going to move? There we go.
That's our administrator, Jovita Carranza, and she's the one that declared the disaster on her own authority, which she has. This is not a presidential declared disaster, and there is no FEMA involvement in this very specific economic injury. Next, please. The economic injury disaster loans are specifically for businesses affected by this unprecedented crisis. The entire supply chain potential has a disruption piece, and to make sure that nothing is disrupted or already disrupted, bring it back online, the money serves as liquidity for those businesses that are starved of revenue as we speak. Next, please. It helps meet working capital needs. Initially, I mentioned the definition of working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. That number, 6 months of it, is what we're looking to front the business so that they can pay their employees, they can make accounts payable conditions, so on and so forth. Next, please.
Are we caught up, Darren? Is that when the sound came on? Okay.
Maximum amortization is 30 years. All loans are up to 30 years. Maximum number is $2 million. And our website is www.sba.gov/disaster.
Okay.
Did we catch up, Darren?
He's nodding.
I believe so. So we do have a number of questions that have come in. I want, again, to apologize to everybody who is on this for the audio issues that we had earlier. Again, we had everything working prior to going live, and then as soon as live happened, it all fell apart. But we are good to go. So we do have a number of people who are interested. What is that phone number for the HR department again, if you wouldn't mind repeating that?
916-735-1500. Operator will answer the phone and they'll direct traffic to HR, or they'll give you the specific instructions to follow. But 916-735-1500.
Perfect.
And can they go to usajobs.gov or whatever that is to apply online?
Indeed, absolutely. I'm unaware of any of the HR processes. I'm more involved on the program information side. So I gave you folks a generic switchboard number to seek additional attention. So please don't have me be the spokesman for HR simply because I'm not involved in that piece and I don't want you folks to get hate mail.
So our next question is, will you match venture capitalist contributions?
Repeat that question for me.
will you match venture capitalist contributions?
The criterion for lending is not matching venture capital. It's a specific functionality of your working capital, your income statement, your balance sheet. So the answer would be no.
Okay. All right. William Paul has a question. It sounds like they have just as many requirements as before. What about pre-revenue companies with disruptions? I'm guessing
The requirements, as a matter of fact, have been relaxed quite a bit. In the past, we would take collateral. We're not taking collateral as we speak. There was a requirement for real estate to be pledged, and that's no longer the case. So we're fronting 6 months worth of working capital, up to $500,000. For folks, if I understood the question correctly from you, if you have a business that was in place prior to the incident period of February the 1st, we would use pro forma income statement and balance sheet to measure what you are doing compared to your pro forma to establish benchmark economic injury.
Okay. What's the biggest rumor that you hear that you want to clear up from this, that you keep getting asked, or something that keeps coming up and you think that's not true? What do you want to clear up right now?
I'd like to clear up the fact that folks are asking if they have a bank line of credit, does that disqualify them? No. If you have credit elsewhere, does that disqualify you? No. Is there FEMA involvement? No. Those are the three big ones that keep propping up, because generally speaking, these types of economic injury disaster loans usually are coupled with a presidential declaration where FEMA is involved. So those are the three things that keep coming up, and I wanted to take the time to dispel it. And I appreciate your question, Rhoda.
That reminds me of another one. If people have business insurance, do they have to max that out first before they're eligible for this disaster loan like the other loans?
We have been advised that there is no insurance recoveries offered by insurance company for COVID. None.
Okay, none. Okay, so it's a moot. Any other questions, Darren?
Oh, we've got quite a few. So as you're talking about kind of trying to dispel some rumors, Carlos Martinez asks, is it true that a requirement is not to lay off any employee?
No, of course not. There is no such requirement. That is not our call. Our call is to evaluate financial statements, which are provided to ascertain repayment, credit history, and lend money so that we can go back, and you folks can go back, the business owner can go back to doing what they do. We're not requiring anyone to do any other scenario other than, provide us financial statements.
Right, and to your point, if they laid people off because they couldn't afford it, they can list payroll as a schedule of liability, and they can get money for it, so they can pay their employees again.
That's correct.
Any other questions, Darren?
Oh, yeah.
Keep going.
I just need to know when you guys
we're
are
done.
ready. So can an independent funding broker get assistance?
Back to the capital at risk equation. If the independent broker has capital at risk, has got a sole prop, has got a company, so on and so forth, yes. If they're getting a commission check and they've got some sort of assistance from, they were getting assistance in the form of a paycheck from an employer, they have to apply for unemployment compensation.
Okay. Our next question is from Michelle. What is the difference between this and CARES program business interruption? I'm not entirely sure what she's asking, but perhaps.
The question she's asking is proposed legislation, which is exactly that, proposed. I have no comment on it, no visibility on it. All we know is that our program is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, $2 million maximum, 3.75% fixed for businesses, 2.75 fixed for nonprofits. No fees, no points, no closing costs, no prepayment penalty, and your first payment is due a year from now. 6 months worth of working capital being fronted for eligible businesses to help insulate them from the ongoing economic revenue disruption.
Okay. All right. So our next question, this is actually very good. So it's from Kenneth Golden. He applied for an SBA loan before COVID-19 became an issue. He wants to know, how can he check on the status of the loan application?
Is he asking for the disaster application, disaster checkup, or is he asking for his regular application?
I believe it would be probably a regular application because this was before the crisis.
Okay. So I thought he was applying for some other, because we had other declarations active at the time. So I thought this was a disaster specific. He would contact the bank that he applied with. He would reach out to the local disaster office. So he applied at Santa Ana. He would go to Santa Ana. If he applied to the Los Angeles office, he would call them, or Orange County or Fresno, wherever he applied.
Or his banker that he was working with to get the loan.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That brings up an interesting point, though. If you were in tornadoes in Tennessee or wherever the tornadoes were recently, your business dropped off before February 1st. Can you apply for 2 disaster loans?
No, because the event took place prior to this declaration. The event specificity that we went over a little while ago would then apply. So if his business was obliterated because of Tennessee, he then needs to apply for recoveries through Tennessee. If it was because of COVID, then he applies through COVID.
Okay. All right. So is there a minimum credit score? And if so, what is it?
Don't have visibility, don't have that number. And generally speaking, we're looking for folks that pay their bills on time. And if there is delinquency, which is dated, in other words, it's been cured, it's in the past, and you pay your bills on time, things are current, for the most part, the money is yours, and you would have to talk it through your underwriter.
Okay. Well, so that kind of stems into this next question, which is it's 3 parts from One Bright Life. What do we need to show in the underwriting process to get the maximum loan amount? And does more
we are fronting the maximum amount of working capital that the company can afford to pay up to 6 months. So let's say the working capital requirement for that company is $15,000 per month. We would then front 6 months of that $15,000 for a maximum of $90,000. It's based on the individual company's very specific working capital requirements.
Okay. So they also continued. They have a huge debt load prior to the COVID-19 crisis, and then with the crisis, they've not been able to issue payroll formally since January of this year. How will that impact their ability for the maximum? It sounds like it might not.
Well, I don't want to make any field eligibility issues. We encourage them to apply simply because I don't want to make a prognostication based on very little information that I have and say don't apply. I encourage them to apply, list your scenario, and have the underwriter talk with you and talk you through the whole scenario.
But I want to interject. If your business was insolvent prior to COVID-19, this isn't the answer you were looking for.
Correct.
Okay. This comes from Tim. Normally, finance companies and funding brokers are restricted industries. Is it no longer a restricted industry for SBA loans?
30% or more of your revenues cannot come from a type of fee brokerage for SBA packages. And that's one of the ineligible applicants we talked about earlier. But we encourage you to apply and find out the possibility of potentially getting funding. This is so unprecedented. A lot of the answers that we usually offer the media and usually offer the public is so restrictive now. Well, we want to make sure that we're careful that we do not, in any way, shape, or form, determine eligibility over the telephone or in a video conferencing. We want folks to apply and find out. I'd much rather say, hey, apply, and they find out that they weren't qualified versus telling them don't apply and they were certainly qualified and they miss out on potential funding.
Okay. We've had a number of questions regarding this. I don't believe that any of us will be able to answer this, though. Apparently, the SBA site, people are saying that it is currently down. So it might just have high traffic, I would assume. Have you come across any slowdowns as far as the people being able to access the website as you've been working?
We were advised that it was down and that they're working on some sort of maintenance issues as soon as possible. Okay. So please bear with us, fill out your applications, mail it in, and keep checking back to see what might be the issue on hand or the issue's already resolved by then.
The other tip I want to give people is if you print the paper application, fill it out, and then do it online, it can go faster and you can get through some of those bugs frequently. Also, save often so that if you go through it and then for some reason the website does crash, you're not starting over from scratch.
Exactly right. That is a terrific tip. Save frequently. Save as many times as you can, because for some reason there's a connectivity issue. You'd have to start all over again. So thanks for that tip.
Yeah.
Kinda
And you
reminds
also
me
have
of,
all the docs ready. If you already have the paper form, you know your insurance information, you know your deed or lease information, you know all the information, and it should go a lot more quickly.
That's correct. Absolutely.
So you mentioned getting the paper application, filling that out, even on online version of it without being on the website. Where, if the SBA site is down, where would be the best location to get that application? Would it be from their local bank, their local SBA branch? Where should they go?
The schedule of liability, most of these forms are fairly generic. So a schedule of liability, if you were to type into the web, let me take a look real quick and see if that's a fair statement to make. I'm going to minimize the screen. If you bear with me. You.
I have a copy of it. You can email us and we'll email it to you as well. It's EIDL at financeagents.com. We've got set up a special email address to help you, so we can get you the forms. You can talk to a funding specialist to help you with it. So that is one place you can go. Probably the SBDIC, is that the right acronym, would be able to email you your copy?
SBDC. SBDC.
SBDC.
Correct. Small Business Development Centers. And as a matter of fact, I typed in Form 2202. It took me to a generic website called SBA Loan Forms, and it asked me to download it as a PDF. So these forms, if we were just to put in the form number, it's very easily accessible.
Perfect.
Any other questions? I'm looking at the time. I don't want to keep you too long. We've been here for an hour.
I've got another call at 1 o'clock. So
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we thank you for your time. I think that's all the questions we have. If you do have any additional questions, if you're on this, we will go ahead and get in touch with you and get the answers to your questions. We may not have them immediately, but we will definitely be in touch to make sure that those questions are answered correctly.
Right.
If you want to aggregate them, Rhoda, and send it to me, I'll be glad to answer it and send it back to you. Then you can share it with the person on hand.
Thank you.
Aggregated responses are probably a critical mass would be actually be helpful. Appreciate the opportunity to present to your audience. 1-800-651-2955. Bear with us while we transition through and help the needs of the many. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. If you are an agent
Take
with
care.
us and have an account, log in, talk to your affiliate manager. We are having lots of trainings on this to make sure that we're trained as well. If you don't have an agent account with us, please email